let's talk about a temporary occupancy agreement, what it is, and how you as a buyer or seller should navigate that. A temporary occupancy agreement is when a seller needs to sell a property but needs to remain in the property after the sale for a specified agreed upon period of time. So I have a contract now where we have a temporary occupancy agreement opportunity because the seller wants to remain in the property for 45 days after my client closes on it. I'm representing the buyer. And so my buyer was gracious enough, my daughter, hang on. Hi, baby. So my buyer was gracious enough to allow them to stay there for the 45 days after she closed on the property. And now we're discussing the temporary agreement and the terms of that. And the seller's agent is asking me, like she didn't expect me to ask the sellers to pay rent for the period of time that they're in the property after the sale of the property. So I was like, let's determine or calculate how we're going to come up with that rent amount, or how we're going to determine the rent amount that her client seller needs to pay, ideally at the time of closing, for this temporary agreement arrangement. And she comes back and says, oh, we both know, Natalie, that the buyer wouldn't have to pay a mortgage payment until, she doesn't have to make a payment until June, but you know that she's paying at closing for that 45 days or however long it is until her first payment. So she's in fact paying for it in her closing costs. So it's not free rent, it's not free mortgage months, it's paid for. So yes, your client, the seller, has to pay to live in the property after we close. Like, how do you figure it's free rent? Where do they do that at? Anyway, sis, if you're trying to negotiate a temporary occupancy agreement, yes, it's standard that the seller who is remaining in the property after close pays a rent amount. And that amount, I use whatever my client is paying, whatever the buyer is paying for a mortgage payment. I like to calculate a little fraction on top of that, 110% of that or 120% of that. That would be the rent that is due at closing for the seller agreeing, or for the seller being allowed to stay at the property after we close. It's not free, honey bunny. It's not free. What are you talking about? Get out of here. The fuck? The fuck? My name is Natalie. I'm a veteran realtor. Follow, like, and comment for more.